To say, I almost forgot this shit. Oh boy. Oh well. We got our shit together this week, that's for sure. Coast to Coast Combat Hour. Ed Carbajal, Matt Hawkins coming to you late as fuck on the week of today's March 9th. It's Thursday, the day before Bellator 292. We're gonna do our quick preview for that. Apologies for the day late, but March has been a pretty crazy month on both coasts for both hosts. Um, some housekeeping before we get into the fights and the news that we need to catch up on. As you guys know, we've been with Anchor since day one, 2017, since before Spotify even bought them. Anchor was owned by Spotify, and if you watched any of Spotify's socials, Anchor.fm is now Spotify for podcasters. So it makes it easier for folks to kind of make their own podcast the way we've been doing it for since 2017, and make their own podcast. So now if you go to now you can just go to Spotify and find all our stuff instead of the Anchor.fm link. You'll see that when we share this episode moving forward. As always, this podcast is brought to you by AllAccessMMA.com. Make sure you check out All Access MMA for your MMA news, and our videos are always posted there. And last but not least, really quick, Matt. I mean, before we get into Bellator 292, we're doing this podcast late in the week, so we really can't speak on too much that folks haven't already talked about from UFC 285. For me, as your brown friend on the East Coast, Alexa Grasso's win, first Mexican female to grab a belt over there in the UFC when she was a huge underdog. I think she was plus 625, and to take out Valentina Shevchenko. Trained for it. Everyone was counting her out. I love her. My stupid ass should have put money on her, and I didn't. And embarrassed by that. But that for me, that was the highlight of that event.
Yeah, I think without question. Yeah, I've been a big fan of her as well. Covered an event she was supposed to fight before she suffered a hand injury in like 2016 for Invicta, maybe 2015 even. Actually, I think it was 2016. And followed her career really since day one, especially her Invicta run, where she eventually won the title there. And, um, always had the striking.
Mm-hmm.
The question kind of was always her wrestling and her going up against dominant wrestlers or submission fighters always seemed to kind of be her kryptonite. And then she had some injuries and stuff that kind of we kept pushing her off, and she'd suffer a tough loss here and there. And it just finally, she was ranked
Mm-hmm.
fifth going into the fight, fifth or sixth, and they gave her the title shot. And I think most people just thought it was another showcase fight for Shevchenko, a chance to kind of get back on the rails for her after a really questionable win over Telio Santos.
Mm-hmm.
Prior to that, we didn't really get into that. I was going to comment on it when we were talking with Brumley, but he was doing such a good job of breaking down the fights. I didn't really want to
Excellent. Yeah.
interrupt him with kind of going well. She kind of squeezed out her last fight. That was going to be like my only in for Grasso, was like maybe she's like getting complacent, or maybe she's, you know, and I'm not saying she's complacent, but she didn't seem like the same Valentina in the cage. And
Mm.
that's not to take anything away from Grasso, because you've got to take advantage of the situation. I mean, even at 80% Grasso, if she's or Shevchenko, if she's not there mentally, is
Yeah.
still a world beater. So I mean, there's a ton to be said. I think we were all shocked by how she finished the fight on the ground. I don't think any of us saw that coming. Had you
Mm-hmm.
placed a bet on Grasso by submission, you probably would be in Tahiti right now and not recording this podcast at all. Um, so that was great. Her striking was crisp. I just thought she looked like if you didn't know anything about either one of these fighters going into the fight and you just watched what you saw, you'd be going, well, Grasso has the straight, strong punches,
Yeah.
and she's got the more developed all around game. And so it really kind of just threw a monkey wrench into the whole thought process that we had. And again, we're going to probably chime in slightly on Jones. I know either of us have a lot to say about the situation, but people jump to the gun so quick when calling people the GOAT, and they're so quick to dismiss somebody when they suffer a loss. Like, this is MMA. Like, if people keep fighting, they're gonna lose, and obviously
Mhm.
that's what makes John Jones special. But at the same time, like, eventually it catches up to you if you
Yeah.
don't leave early. Like, if you don't, Habib left early, like,
Mhm.
and maybe he'll come back and maybe he'll win 4 more fights. Maybe he'll lose 2 out of 3. Like, but it shouldn't change. Like, if you're a fan of the sport, you should see what you see with your eyes, and that should be how you judge how great somebody is. It
Yeah.
shouldn't be based off of their worst performance. Like, if you're a basketball star or fan, you didn't judge Kobe Bryant off the game he went 5 for 27 shooting. Like, that's just stupid. Everybody has off nights. Everybody can get caught, and then especially in MMA where it's just a matter of an inch. Or not even I mean, it's a millimeter. It can be the difference between getting cut with a glove and a fight getting stopped and you losing, or you dodging that seam and not feeling
Mhm.
anything and counterpunching your opponent. So it's such a close thing. I don't think this really does a ton to knock Shevchenko. Like, I feel like she's still right there. She still can be a co-headliner or a headliner on any UFC card. She's likely to bounce back. It might be good that she kind of gets humbled a little bit because you never
Mhm.
know what's mentally going on with these fighters. But I mean, Grasso put on a. I mean, it was a. I mean, even if she doesn't finish that fight in that round, you're 2-2 going to the last round, and
Yeah.
the way she was fighting and using just so smart. I mean, just everything she did was intelligent in that fight. She didn't put herself in any kind of real danger, and she constantly, really went after. When Valentina made a mistake, she emphasized it.
Mhm.
And with that
What's
spinning back
crazy,
kicking, yeah.
I mean, what's crazy about it? I mean, everyone's finding out after the fact. She was saying it. She said in her post-fight interview, she was saying it in every interview she did afterwards. She trained for everything Valentina does dominantly. The spinning techniques, the crucifix position that when she takes people down and pins fighters down in. She trained to escape that. She trained to time the way she finished her. I mean that video. Shout out to Danny Segura from MMA Junkie, who does the Blamos MMA podcast, for sharing the video from her Instagram where she shows how she was training for Valentina's spinning techniques to get behind her. I mean, I didn't think she was gonna jump in with both hooks the way she did, like a backpack, but that was literally like probably the most insane part. I mean, one of the most memorable wins of the night. I mean, there's a couple of fights there that I was kind of like Shavkat Ramanov. Like, I know he won and he's still undefeated, but I mean, he did not win easily. Like the fight was tough for him. So I don't know how much stock you want to put in to like the what's next for him, because I know he was saying he wants a title shot, but it's not like you had a dominant fight. You were having some trouble against that guy. And then I'm just off the top of my head remembering the event as I watched it. Um, Dracus Duplessis, you know, his fight was tougher than expected. I mean, it's weird what we're seeing that coming up, and then again when you talk about, I mean, outside of the main event, I mean, there's nothing left to say about the main. Everyone's already saying it. We're not going to repeat much of it here, but John Jones being the heavyweight champion now, Stipe, with him and Stipe looking ahead at it's probably going to be July UFC 290 International Fight Week. The you know the thing about, I could have told you that night that John Jones was going to jump pound for pound rankings in on the UFC ranking list, because that's just somebody, I forget, I wish I could remember who it was on Twitter, was like, the UFC rankings are done by a bunch of people that barely watch the sport, and we've been saying that here for a while. So it's just a bandwagon thing now, and we're starting to see that in a lot of rankings panels and other places. There's too many rankings panels. We've actually talked about that like 2-3 podcasts ago. So like you said, if you watch the sport with your eyes, you can just make your own assessment of what's going on. I mean, I personally think maybe one or two John Jones beats Stipe. Maybe the what's his name, Sergey Pavlovich. I know I'm fucking
Hmm.
up his name.
He's fighting Curtis Blades, so that's actually going to do Jones a favor because it's going to
Yeah,
dodge somebody who could potentially be
yeah.
a tough matchup for him. Whoever loses that fight. So let me ask you a question, because I'm to me Cyril Gane is is basically at this point, after his last couple of performances, to me, he's basically Brett Rogers 2.0. He might as well be Art Jimerson. He should have went in there with one boxing glove because he showed as much ground game as a heavyweight would have in UFC 1. If I name who you favoring fighting Cyril Gahn, if I give you these fighters: Stipe Miocic, Pavlovich, Blades, Aspinall, and Spivak, and even Tybura. How many of them are you picking to take down and easily control Cyril Gahn or submit him instantly?
Oh,
every one of them.
Yeah, I thought you were gonna ask me something else. Yeah. I thought you were gonna ask me something else.
Other than Rosenstruck, Volkov, and Lewis, and Tuivasa in the top 10, who would likely stand and try to bang and might get picked up a little bit. All those guys I mentioned, like if they use a game plan, I don't see any way that they even. It's like flawless victory to me. I mean,
yeah,
it wasn't a thrown fight, it wasn't a fixed fight, but you couldn't have a worse performance from the number one heavyweight in the world. And I get it. Jones went out there, did his job real quick, but the dude didn't throw a strike. The dude had showed no defense on the ground.
He threw one. It's that's funny because he actually threw one.
He threw a kick.
Well, no, he threw the kick, and then that was like the foul or whatever. But then there's somebody shared the slow mo of the one jab he threw, and Jones literally slipped it and just came in right underneath it and cinched him up, and that was the beginning of the end. And so it's just
Jones is Jones is great. I think I'm personally just tired of the greatest of all time talk. I'm tired of fighters who claim they're the greatest of all time. Again, that's why I liked guys like Khabib and liked guys like Fedor and stuff, because
they don't say much.
They don't say it. If you say you're the greatest of all time, you're hyping yourself up, and it's like it's for other people to say. So if people think that, that's great. But I just I hope he doesn't come up here and just cherry pick the fights that he thinks he can win. An old Stipe, like a guy who has zero ground game.
Yeah.
Like that's what I have a feeling is going to happen. And the, I hate to say Zuffa zombies again, because I have a lot of friends who generally think Jones is the greatest fighter they've ever seen. And I can't really argue with them. But at the same point, like, I just hope he stays around long enough to get his ass kicked. I really do. I mean,
he might not, though. I mean, because if he, of course, everybody wants the same thing with Floyd Mayweather when he was boxing. Everyone wanted to see that. I mean, people still want to see that. That was the whole draw with him and McGregor.
Yeah.
I mean, even in retrospect, as somebody that you pull yourself outside of your fandom, that the boxer is going to win the boxing match. But it's the same thing. Like everybody, it's that what if that makes people want to watch these fights, and he's so good that it doesn't look like it's going to happen. And if he plays his cards right, I think he gets maybe one or two big payday. If he beats Stipe, that's pretty much. I think that's all that's left out there for him. I wouldn't be surprised if he beats Stipe in July and he hangs it up and says I'm done. Because if he fought Stipe, for me, if he fought Stipe after the first time Stipe fought Ngannou and beat him, that's the fight that was more challenging. Like you said, it's an old Stipe, and he even said something in the post-fight press conference addressing Stipe directly when he was like, you can't be you got to do this full time. You can't be a firefighter if you're going to get ready for me. And I kind of agree with that because, one of the things on those UFC embeddeds that they kept showing was like Cyril Gahn, playing video games or some shit. And meanwhile, Jones is like watching his weight. It's like, it's two different animals, and I think we're getting to a point, especially when it comes to pro MMA, that Michael says Jones is quite a jerk, though. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean,
I'm tired of his act. He's not my cup of tea. But we're old school. If you're old school, like you're kind of like you don't fall for it. Like I don't fall for his act. I don't fall for the nice guy act. I think he probably likely is a complete total jerk the minute you get him behind, away from a camera and away from the fans who you gotta play the game. But
yeah, I mean, and the other thing too is like he quickly went from praising Ngannou's decision to leave 1 week and then calling him a pussy.
It's all hype.
It's just not. It's just not.
I was more disappointed in Gahn. I think I think he's overrated at this point. He was 9-0 and now he's 9-2, and I think he got the UFC hype machine behind him, got a couple nice wins, and managed to get But I
Yeah.
don't think. I mean, if Brock Lesnar came out of retirement tomorrow, he'd be a 3-1 favorite over Gone.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I
I
mean,
mean,
I wouldn't put anything past. I mean, he's too old now, but like you said, it's just. I mean, it's what they're doing now. It's. I don't know what else is left. I saw that article about Ari Emanuel talking about the future of the UFC and how there's other broadcasting bidders like where they start putting this product after the ESPN if they leave ESPN. I don't know what the sport's going to turn into because what it's turning into, it's definitely something a little bit weirder than we've been watching these past 30 years as they come on their 30-year anniversary. But that's enough of UFC 285. Let's talk about some fun MMA
yes.
tomorrow night. Are you going to this one or no?
No. It's up in San Jose. It would have been nice, but just not in the cards with them coming to my neighborhood later this month and WrestleMania, for all the pro wrestling fans. Yeah, that's local this year. So, but yeah, no, great card, San Jose. They returned to San Jose after quite a while. Actually, I can't even really picture the last time that they had a nice event up there. Um, Card's been decimated slightly by injuries as far as the undercard, but till 10 solid fights. Um, Kicking off the Grand Prix at lightweight, which is one of the best lightweight tournaments that we've ever seen. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Going back to Pride, perhaps, but the Gomi run out there. But I mean, some really great names and nice heavyweight fight and a kind of a super fight too that really hasn't got much talk. I think we'll
This one
start with
here,
that and kick it off the card. Michael
yeah.
Venom Page MVP versus Goiti Yamauchi. I mean, I'm kind of shocked it's the curtain jerker for the main card. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
get why because of the status of the rest of the fights, but
Mm-hmm.
um, I mean, holy moly, that's you know that's my favorite fight. Like if I could only watch one fight that night, like that's the one I'd want to watch. I mean, it's interesting. I don't
Yeah.
know if it's going to be the most exciting fight because Venom Page can slow stuff down and has had some snoozers, but you've got an ace grappler against really one of the most like spectacular kind of freaky strikers in the
Mm-hmm.
world and I mean Yamauchi coming off of a devastating knockout of Neiman Gracie. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's it's an interesting, and we forget Page was the number one, he fought for the interim title in his last fight, so this is essentially a number one-ish contender fight.
Mm-hmm.
um for the welterweight division. We just saw Amosov win, but I mean, these guys are right there. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know how. Honestly, going about picking it's hard for me.
Yeah.
I probably lean Page because I feel like he's more likely to be the person controlling the fight, where the fight kind of how it goes. If he gets super aggressive, then obviously it's anybody's game. It becomes more of a coin flip. But if he plays his reach game, if he plays kind of his
Which,
psychological game that he can
yeah.
have, I think that he can likely pick up a decision win on an easier path. Yamauchi is going to have to enter dangerous waters
Mm-hmm.
to get in and get his hands on Page. And if he gets him down, he's got to do damage on the ground so that
Yeah.
to finish it, or put the fear of God in
Yeah.
MVP.
So, I mean, we're bringing up for folks that just listen to the audio version, we're on Bellator.com's event page. Their stats they're not as specific as UFC.com, but there's definitely, if you saw the face off, it's been on over social media. And what's written here, 6'3" on Michael, he's 6'3", Michael Page, and Goiti Yamauchi's 5'9". So there's definitely a reach advantage for Page, and he's the striker in this matchup. This is a striker versus grappler matchup. Um, I mean, I feel like it's the thing about a striker versus grappler. Like, if you go back to like the old days, like if it was UFC 1, the grappler's probably going to win because the strikers are usually. But everybody trains in a little bit of everything now, and I feel like MVP. The dude hits hard. We've seen him crack skulls. I mean, with that reach advantage and his laser focus. This is his first fight back since doing the BKFC thing. He actually did a really nice. He's done some pretty good media for this. I know folks like to try to say Bellator doesn't advertise whatever. But he was on Morning Combat. I know they're a CBS partner and all that, but he also did a at the event in Dublin. He was there and he did a whole scrum that I wrote a piece on over at mymmanews.com, where he just kind of talks about the BKFC experience and how he wants to be a complete martial artist, and this return fight for him could be the fight that kind of reminds people of the type of martial artist that he is. He's fought wrestlers and stuff before, so like you said, if Yamauchi can't close the distance, and especially early when they're dry, if he can't close the distance and get him down to control him, um, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if these the fans got 71% of the fans on Bellator.com are picking Page to win, and I wouldn't be surprised if rounds 1 and 2, especially if it rounds 1 and 2, if we don't see like a quick, one shot, something that hurts Yamauchi, I'm not going to be surprised if that happens. As a jiu-jitsu guy, I want Yamauchi to win because I love seeing slick submissions, but
I'm rooting
you
for
know,
him just because I'm a fan of his. I've said on the
yeah.
show before, like I met him right after his
Mhm,
debut in Bellator, and that was shoot 7 8 years ago now, and
mhm,
I've watched every one of his fights since, and I'm just a big fan of the guy. I like his attitude, I like his warrior spirit, I like everything
mhm,
that he brings to the table, and um, I'm pulling for him. I just think that he went up in weight. He's naturally, historically he was a 155er,
mhm,
so he's 170, so he's already slightly undersized, you would think. Although he did look good, great against Neiman Gracie. If Page comes in a little bit heavier, and if you get 185, 190 pound Venom Page in there at 6'3", coming off of one MMA loss and one BKFC loss in a row, he might be hungry. And if you get a hungry Venom Page, you never know quite what, everybody's kind of been wanting him to turn into that just, super aggressive kind of beast, this, we'll see. It's kind of, it's not do or die for him, but
mhm.
it's getting there because he's not young, he's got
Yeah,
some age on him. So,
yeah,
um, but I think, I mean, to me, it's just an outstanding fight.
yeah,
I mean, one that, I'm going to make sure I get home from work quick tomorrow so I don't, what time?
yeah.
Scroll back up to the top. What time does the main card start? Just out of curiosity. So main card's at 7, so it'll work out great. So a little late for the East Coasters, but you'll have a little buzz going, and you
No, I
get.
mean that I mean the Bellator is fun, so I'll stay up for that. I mean, this is a great card. Even the prelims, I know there's some interesting fights in the prelims, but
Featured fight, Valentin Moldovsky, former interim heavyweight
mhm,
champion, rematches Linton Vassell, who he beat a handful of fights back. Um, Vassell's been on a tear at heavyweight since the loss to Moldovsky. Moldovsky, got wore out and beat up by Bader, lost by decision in his last fight. Again, I mean, I great fight. I mean, I just, to me, these are fun fights,
mhm,
and man, everything about me always goes Team Fedor, Team Fedor, Team Fedor, but I I, I kind of think heavyweight Vassell is an animal, and I don't know. It'll be I really can't even pick this fight. To me, this is a coin flip.
mhm.
I probably, if I was putting money, I'd probably bet on Moldovsky just because of his ability to take someone down and smother him.
Yeah.
But Vassell is has looked so good, and what he did to
Mhm,
Karatanov, I can never get that out of my mind. One of the fans got it on their fan vote. They got it 55-42, 3%
mhm.
draw. So not far from a coin flip. So I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
good fight though. I mean, I don't know how you see it, but I just, it's gonna be a banger for sure. Two
Yeah, yeah,
aggressive heavyweight fight.
that's one I'm probably gonna stay away from. I'm leaning Moldovsky, but I don't want to. Again, don't go making bets based on what I say, especially with the way I've been picking this year. Um, so then we jump into the Grand Prix fights. Tofik Musia versus Alexander Shabli. Hopefully, I'm not messing that up. Uh,
Musaya, former Ryzen
yeah, it's
champion, before he was beaten by Roberto de Souza, who we saw recently fight Aaron McKee on New Year's.
mhm,
Um, Coming off of, though, a big win, a 27-second knockout of Sydney Outlaw in a fight that I think people thought would be much more competitive, but obviously ended quick. Shabili or Shabli, like you said, we hack names left and right, so shouldn't be any different this week. Coming off a win over Brett Primus, both guys have fought good competition. Both guys have
Yeah.
great records. Um, I mean, again, another coin flip fight, which is what kind of making this to me a coin flip fight. Well, I'm curious to see what the fans have to say, but um,
Everybody looks like they're leaning Musiev,
Musiev,
which
more
I
of a
get.
name. He's got
Yeah.
more of a name. Like I said, former champ. I'm leaning towards him to win by decision.
Hmm.
Um, I so this is the Grand Prix. So this is one of the Grand Prix bouts. I'm not sure exactly where they fit on the. I mean, does the winner of this fight the winner of the championship, or I have to look at the brackets
Yeah.
again. But Musayev, he carried a lot of hype coming over. Had a couple canceled fights, and like I said, had made quick work of Outlaws. So
Mhm.
a little bit of a mystery still. When you come from Japan, uh, there is a little bit of a warming up period usually coming to the United States and fighting. So um, I I think it's another great fight, man.
Mhm.
I don't know. I haven't followed Shabili as long, but
I think
you
that's
know
why. I mean, Musiev seems to probably have more like exposure because
that's it. I mean, well,
I'm
after
leaning
watching him in the
Musiev
Grand Prix and
too.
Ryzen, yeah,
Yeah, and I'm leaning Musiev too, just like the 72% of the fans at Bellator.com are. Um, then we have, I mean, so I like Benson Henderson a lot. I've talked to him a bunch of times about it when he's been out here in New York in the Viacom building for Bellator media stuff, and I was watching his interview yesterday where he talks about how these last few fights are the last ones on his contract, and then he's going to be done fighting, so he could go home, be a dad, and let his wife do her fight career since she filled in the shoes of being mom, while with their kids and stuff like that, which is super noble, super cool of both of them. So I get it all, and let me see what the fans are saying. Because obviously, 82% of the fans are picking the champ Usman Nurmagomedov to win. I mean, obviously, the lineage, the name, and the fact that he's the current belt holder, and Henderson is already openly talking about this being the end of his career. But I want Henderson to win because I mean I like the dude, so I
dude, I
want him
hear
to
it. I
win.
hear it. I don't think you can I don't think anybody can legitimately pick him to win.
Hmm.
I don't think there's any real reason to pick him to win. Like he has it. He's fighting a guy who's undefeated. He's fighting the champion. He's fighting a guy who's been highlight reel after highlight reel to get his championship. Um, but he's a veteran. He's a
Hmm.
former champion. He's been under the bright lights before. And he's coming off of a win over Peter Queally.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I mean, I'm kind of with you where I'd like to see the old school dude pick up a win, shock the world, wear gold for at least one fight,
Hmm.
because I don't think Vincent Henderson wins this tournament. But if he gets through this guy, you never know. Like
And it's a
Nurmagomedov
big
is,
win. Like, yeah.
and it's you know. So I mean, obviously, I'm going to pick Nurmagomedov. I think he probably wins by decision because that's what Vincent Henderson does is go to decisions if he's not, you know,
This is
facing
true.
Michael Chandler in
Hmm.
a second time. But um, he's good at going to decisions. He's also good at winning split decisions. He's good at winning controversial decisions,
Hmm.
which you're not really good at, but seems to come his way. Maybe it's his fight style. Maybe I don't know, but
It's
I
definitely his fight style.
it's
Yeah.
it's what keeps fights close and can throw opponents off. So obviously there's that. I'm not. I hate to make excuses for bad judging, which is
Hmm.
kind of what it is. In a few of his split decision wins, I don't think he necessarily deserved the W, but um, I mean, I'll be rooting for him quietly because I would like to see the kind of the shock and the awe of him winning again and having the championship, but I just don't see it happening. I think Nurmagomedov is the clear favorite for this tournament, and I think he he I think he does some damage here, unfortunately, and might end Benson's career. But if it is the end of Henderson's career, he goes out to the undefeated champion. He's getting a championship fight.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's the way you want to go out. We just saw it with Fedor. Like he
Hmm.
wanted to go out in a championship fight. It doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily mean it's the best thing for your health or the best thing for
But
your
it's like
stats at the
it's
end of your
gonna
career. But
underline, it's gonna answer any if you're questioning. Same thing with Fader. If you have any questions about yourself, I mean, this is the test you want to give yourself too. So then that's one of the things I respect about Henderson. The dude is just always he's just that guy, and he was always super cool to talk to. You know, for the events that I've covered that he's been in, and he's also very real about his losses too. Like when I asked him about a few there of the, especially with the ones that were with decision. I mean, he after the fact, I forget the fight it was, but he said he was like, no, he was like he stopped me in the middle of like trying to talk, like I guess sort of comfort. He was like, no, I got my ass whipped in that fight, and I was just like, you know what, man? I mean that's just the kind of guy he is, smooth. So if he does win, man, I'll probably be up. You know, the fight's gonna, like you said, it's gonna be late. It'll be like my shot of coffee, like Brandon Moreno style when he fights Figueiredo 8 million times or something, like, you know what I mean. But well, we'll see. But it's March. It's dope month for Bellator. If you're not watching, you best be watching, because you know, this one, and then a couple of weeks pass, and then they're in your neck of the woods on the 31st for another fire card. So I'm definitely liking. March has been a crazy busy month for both of us, and I mean that's kind of a good thing, right?
yeah, no, I mean, I'm beyond stoked that they're coming back out to my neck of the woods again after shoot COVID 4 or 5 years almost now.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm excited for that. You mentioned Benson Henderson's wife and her fighting career. Want to make sure that it's still the case, but I believe she is fighting. Yeah, Maria Henderson. She's fighting on the card on the 31st of this month out here.
There
So,
you go.
um, so she is she's on the prelims, but she is fighting. So, um, potentially a really big March for the Henderson family
Mm-hmm.
if something could happen tomorrow. And like I said, if it doesn't go Benson's way, then he's got his coaching hat on, and he's got his wife getting in the cage in a couple of weeks, and a chance to really push her as she's 1-0 currently, and looking to go to 2-0 and get a little roll going. And in Bellator, if you're a female fighter, you can put a few wins together. You can get in the mix pretty quick. So
Yeah,
um, there's a lot going on there. Um, Not going to get into the card, but the main event this weekend for UFC is kind of a fun one. It's our boy Dashvili, who we've been hyping up since day one against Peter Yan.
that's a good
So
fight.
it's a hell of a fight, hell of a
Yeah,
main event. They're not doing it in the Apex; they are in Vegas. They're doing it at the Virgin Casino Theater, formerly the Joint, um, which uh, which used to hold some of the fight nights. Um, and the old WFA cards,
yeah.
if anybody in Vegas remembers those,
I
and stuff.
I got Mirab, obviously, team Sarah all the way. Sarah Long all the way. So I got Mirab Devashvili picked for my pick for that
I
fight.
think he wins. It hurts me because I thought Peter Yan, and I still do think he's a great, awesome. Not great might not be the right word, but I think he's a
Mhm.
top fighter in the world. But he's on a rough streak now of fighting opponents that have, the O'Malley thing I thought was kind of a joke, but other than that,
Yeah,
you know, um, I think it's a tough matchup. Dashvili's, did it to Aldo, and his string wrestling or his chain wrestling is
yeah.
just
That's the thing.
some.
I mean,
It's
it's somebody that's already he's going with someone that trains heavily with the person that beat him recently.
mhm.
So I feel like that there was a lot of shared technique, and he does this a lot and he does that a lot, and that's what we're gonna see. Especially Aldo fought him twice, so it's definitely gonna be an interesting fight. But Jesus Christ, is March crazy busy month for MMA.
It's
So
March Madness, but we're not talking basketball. Yeah, there,
yeah,
there-
yeah.
so
That's a good one. Yeah.
yeah. So I think we're gonna kind of wrap up here. Fans,
Yes,
definitely check
sir.
out the Bellator tomorrow night, Showtime, or any other way you figure out how to watch it. But it's definitely can't miss. Um, Fans can follow us at Combat Hour on Twitter, Coast to Coast Combat Hour on Instagram. Follow me, Matthew Hawkins, at MMA Hawk 21 on Twitter and Instagram. Follow Ed at Carbazol on Twitter, Carbeerzol on Instagram, Old Head Carb on Twitch. Weekly, we are brought to you by allaccessmma.com. We've got Amazon links in our thing for that can help the show. If you're a fan of one, purchase merchandise through our links. One's got their show 2 months out, basically sold out. I'm excited as hell about that.
That's
Down
right.
to
You're
about
going to that. Yeah.
yeah, there's literally like 10 seats left in the entire arena, and we're still 2 months out. So they did a great job
Kevin
of
Nicholson.
the awesome fan and check out Kevin Nicholson's
YouTube channel.
YouTube channel. Yeah, as he breaks down injuries weekly from the crazy world of sports. I believe I saw him tweet that he's going to be out there in Vegas this weekend for the fight, for the UFC fight. So have a great time, Kevin, with that. And hopefully nobody gets injured, but if they do, you'll
At
be the
least
first
you're in
one to
house.
let us know.
Yeah, you're in house to help them start doing the therapy early.
Yep,
So
there it is. Have a good night, everybody, and thank you for listening.